Coxswain do?
Well, first off, you just want to make sure you're being efficient each stroke. And depending upon what the regatta format is, conserve energy. At the same time, you want to impress your competitors that you're a fast crew. So there's gamesmanship that goes on. But coxswain is just, you talked with them about race strategy. And when it's time to go to the whip, you go to the whip. And other than that, you just make sure that the boat is performing well.
One of the interesting things in college football is that they have the quarterback wired so that they can get signals and plays in from the sideline. I'm wondering what your position might be on wiring the coxswain so that the coach can visit about what's going on.
I'm sure with these energy drinks, they're wired anyway, so it might be more confusing than a help, because sometimes a coach can be less calm than the coxswain. When I was coaching, once you push the boat off, you just wait for the performance. And if you've done your homework and you've taught the coxswain well, they'll be in charge of the vessel. It'll return safely, and hopefully they'll be able to put a medal around the crew's neck.
That was one of the interesting comments that came out of a book by John Wooden, the legendary UCLA basketball coach, that he felt that his point guard was educated in practice and educated in his theories and things like that, that he didn't need to scream and holler from the sideline, and so he spent a lot of time kibitzing players as they came by.
You know, the difference is for rowing, though, compared to basketball, is it would be like greeting your team, putting them on the court when the game started. You had to go back to the locker room and wait, and you could come in the last 2 minutes and watch it from the top of the bleachers. It's really grim when you're a rowing coach, and it's actually against the rules for you to be in contact with your crews during racing. They're not even allowed to have a satellite navigation system that gives them any GPS units or anything. There's no outside contact. You can only rely on what happens with the boat. So you really do rely on your rowers and your coxswains to get the job done out there. There's no timeouts for us.
Well, quite frankly, in the overall view of things and the athletic picture, I think that the more the athletes are involved would be very positive for that. Jim, you're about ready to start one down there. Let's hear it.
Okay. Event number 26, Men's Collegiate Second Varsity, Heat B, Lane 1, Stanford University. Lane 2, Gonzaga. Lane 3, UC Irvine. Lane 4, Bates College. And in Lane 5, Santa Clara University. You heard the start. Starters command, and away we go. No incidents of bad rowing here off the start. Right now, Gonzaga rowing crisp and clean. Gonzaga and Stanford are pulling away from the rest of the fleet. Gonzaga with perhaps a seat advantage over Stanford in lane 1. Stanford now getting ready to shift as the crews approach the 250-meter mark of this course. So right now we've got at 250 Stanford University in quite a battle with the Zags from Gonzaga in lane 2. After that, lane 3, UC Irvine is in the 3rd spot with quite a tussle with Bates College. The Bobcats giving them all they want. And in that 5th position is Santa Clara University out in lane 5. But it's the Cardinal rowing over here in lane number 1, your race leader. Now with about a half a boat advantage over Gonzaga, who has a full boat length advantage over UC Irvine, who has a 4-seat advantage over the 4th place Bates crew, who is almost 1 boat length ahead of Santa Clara. And that's the way the boats will cross as they come to the 500-meter mark here. This is event number 26, Men's Collegiate Second Varsity Heat B.
Going to check on the lane assignments once again. Stanford in lane number 1, and they are on the current lead. In lane number 2 is Gonzaga. They jumped off to an early lead, but Stanford has eclipsed that. In lane number 3, the University of California, Irvine. Lane 4, Bates College. And lane number 5 is Santa Clara. And that's kind of the order of positions right now. 1, Stanford, 2, Gonzaga, Irvine 3, Bates 4, and Santa Clara 5.
Yes, well, Stanford's certainly showing themselves to be the class in the field. Although, if we look at this picture, we're seeing a little bit of water coming over the top of the shaft of the stroke in the Gonzaga boat. And that water means that the boat is moving faster than the blade, but the blade is not moving fast enough to accelerate the boat. So you get that little waterfall effect. So looking for a little flatter stroke. But it's quite impressive that they are hanging on to Stanford, ranked number 10 in the country.
Collegiate, second back.
Well, I would suspect that if you are able to have an early showing against somebody, coach could probably convince you that you could do it all the way down the line. So getting that, being competitive early is certainly at least a mental uplift. Stanford currently in the lead with Gonzaga in second spot, Irvine third, Bates fourth, and Santa Clara as they approach 1,000 meters into the race with 1,000 to go.
Exactly, Alan. You know, sometimes a bad race here can derail you for the early part of your season. So, you know, we're certainly looking for a strong performance when you could turn up here with a crew.
Santa Clara making a little move on Bates on the outside. Nothing earth-shattering at the moment anyway, and we continue to go 1 through 5. Stanford, Gonzaga, Irvine, Bates, and Santa Clara. Nobody making a particular move on one another, although it appears that Santa Clara has snuck into a position in front of Bates ever so slightly, as they still have a long way to go on this run down the course.
Yes, they're coming to that third 500 where the lactate accumulation starts to, pretty much these crews are redlining it. Once they do the start and use the power aspect and shift into their race, they're trying to redline it. They're trying to rate their fastest speed, and so that the lactates accumulate at a level where they can either maintain them or use them. And once it reaches a certain point with the lactates, the muscles start to shut down. So some of the training enables you to tolerate the lactates better, but this early in the season, that third 500 can be a graveyard. So you might see a little bit of changing happening there.
Well, I must have lactated out 30 years ago. That's when my muscles shut down. Stanford continuing to hang on, but Gonzaga has ratcheted up the stroke a little bit, and as I say that, I see a little bit of splash come out of the Gonzaga on their port side there, and that kind of slowed their progress, not radically, but Stanford taking advantage of that and staying ahead. UC Irvine coming on, and then on the outside, Santa Clara has taken the measure of Bates, at least to this point, as we're nearing 250 meters to go, probably about 300 right now, and stroke for stroke, Stanford and Gonzaga. So we'll see if the Cardinal can hang on against the furious charge here that Gonzaga is beginning to throw at them. UC Irvine is beginning to drop back as both Santa Clara and Bates are beginning to make a move on them. On the lead, Stanford along the shoreline continues to keep about a 5 or 6 seat lead in this activity, and holding off Gonzaga all the way down the line. UC Irvine falling back as Santa Clara on the outside, and Bates in lane number 4 beginning to move up on the anteaters. Neither has been successful as yet, however. Stanford continues on the lead here, and they have about a 6 seat lead over Gonzaga, both of them stroking at about the same. Now we have open water back to UC Irvine. Irvine is trying to hold off a charge from the outside by Santa Clara as the Bates crew also tries to sneak in between. Now Bates has come up close and even with Santa Clara as we look back to the finish. It is Stanford on the lead. Gonzaga will apparently finish unofficially second place. UC Irvine is holding on for that third position, but there's a battle between Santa Clara and Bates as they go to the finish line. This is UCI coming across first, and then Santa Clara on the outside. Looks like they held off Bates to finish in that final position. And once again, we've seen an interesting little battle at the end of our field, having been won by Stanford, Gonzaga, third place Irvine, and then a quick and hard battle between Santa Clara and Bates.
And as these crews come by, watch and see how close their blades are to the water when they're actually taking the stroke. If they're waving around a little bit, it means they're going to miss part of their leg drive and not be quite as effective. So, and I think that came into play for Bates as they came through.
Send me in, Coach. You can't do replacements in this sport either, can you?
No substitutions.